Let's just get to the bottom of it and find out what's going on. How did we get here? And there's no better way to do it. I think I'm looking. I see Mr. Scott Borman with the Benton, Washington, big long name. Basically the Regional Public Water Authority.
Yes.
Joining us to try to explain a little bit about what's going on. Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Man, it is wonderful when magic kind of works. How about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Now, you're with the Water Authority based out of, Avoca, and you supply water, big demand, by the way, I understand, to 17 communities, kind of and I don't expect you to run down all 17, but we talked about Tiny Town. What are some of the other communities that, I guess, really solely rely on the water supply that you provide?
Yeah, the sole positions that we're in, pretty much Garfield Gateway, Lost Bridge up on the north end. Then you have Benton County 1, which does Avoca. Then we have multiple other cities, Pea Ridge, one of the fastest growing cities in the U.S. and Arkansas. Centerton, we all know about Centerton. Bella Vista POA, we provide water to half of it. Decatur, Heifel, Gravette.
Man, he really just named all 17.
To Washington Water Authority, Tawny Town's included in there too. Gentry, the Simmons plant is one of our customers. Poultry plant outside of Gentry, Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport's a customer of ours through Heifel. Washington Water Authority, large rural system down on the south end of town, and we actually go all the way to Westville, Oklahoma. We cover an area of about roughly 1,900 square miles.
So this morning, you sent an email out to the 17 communities and others that rely on you. An email that you haven't sent since I think we said 9 years, 2017. Yeah. And we're not trying to be alarmist, but at the same time, you're trying to clearly communicate.
Conserve water,
because I think the number that really jumps out at me is that you basically, in a nutshell, you're a public utility. You're selling this water to these communities, and you're selling at this point 21 million gallons a day, but your max pumping capacity is 20 million. Do the math. I mean, you're running on a 1 million gallon deficit a day. Where do you see that? Is that something we should be concerned? How long has this deficit been going, and what's it going to take to get you back to water level? I guess basically.
Well, the interesting thing about this is it's so weather dependent and everything. The last few summers we've had have been relatively cool and wet. Not a lot of demand for irrigation and everything else. When it turns hot and dry, this is what happens. And almost all the additional demand we're getting right now is from lawn irrigation, subdivisions doing, putting out sod and hydro seeding, and that type of stuff right now. We've all driven around Northwest Arkansas and we see the water going on the ground where people don't have businesses just turn their sprinkler systems on and off. Half the time they're shooting out in the road, and you've got a huge river running down the road from those. What we're doing is just trying to get people aware that we need to cut back on the lawn irrigation, both commercial and residential lawn irrigation, because it's putting a tremendous strain on the system. When we sell, we're selling 21 million a day and we only pump 20. That doesn't take into account the two peak demand times in the early morning and then another one in the evening, and that causes an additional deficit to happen into the storage tanks because they're pulling it out at a rate which would be equivalent to 28 to 30 million gallons per day. That's the flow leaving the tanks. So we can't make up or catch up from that with our current pumping scheme, and we're pumping at our absolute maximum right now.
And you said basically, just to kind of really make it more tangible so people get it, there's two large tanks, for instance, in the Decatur area. One you told me was 7.5 million, the other one 5 million. And you've got high-tech stuff that shows you the levels. Those tanks are dropping, what? You said 3 feet a day?
3 feet per day is what we're actually losing in those tanks right now, which roughly about 2 million gallons a day. We're not losing it. It's going out to the system.
Sure.
But we can't recover that 3 feet overnight like we normally could. Most of the year, the usage is we get hit during the day, but we can recover at night. Right now, because usage is so high, we cannot recover at all.
And
we had a major leak about 6 weeks ago, and I've seen some posts out there that say this is associated with that. This has nothing to do with that. We fully recovered after that and everything. This just comes down to more use than what we can pump. And the biggest culprit to it is lawn irrigation. We see this in hot, dry years. We haven't had to deal with it for the last few, but it is definitely here this year. And with the outlook for the rest of the month being in the 90s and hundreds, very little chances of rain. And then you throw the drought situation that's ongoing and developing with that. We're coming down to a perfect storm unless we get some cooperation out there from the public.
And how long would you say, if you do get that cooperation from the public, would it take y'all to recover?
We probably would not recover fully until September. We're just trying to cut a couple million gallons a day off with lawn irrigation and stuff, which will allow us to remain relatively stable. As long as we can do that, we're okay.
I'm looking
the
at
last thing we want is everybody to start running out.
Right.
And then running to the store and buying all the toilet paper.
So Doug, stop watering your lawn.
That's what we do when we freak out. Buy toilet paper. And I've got a lawn that I'm just trying to like stay above board. I've already killed a tree. Lesson learned. Don't plant a tree in June, even June. And it's not just, I mean, I was saying, I'm looking at this shot. You're in your office there. I don't see bells and I don't hear sirens going off in the background. So I'm assuming you haven't hit panic mode yet. Again, an email that's gone out for the first time in 9 years to these communities. What is panic mode? What is, hey, when would your utility say, guys, now, mandatory? What more has to happen?
I think if we start bouncing around 30 feet left in the tanks, we do have issues with 3 of our systems in the center without getting into a lot of specifics, but because they pump the water, they have specific limits on how far those tanks can draw before they can't draw any water out. So we have to be cognizant of that while we're moving forward. But I would say, right now we're bouncing around 37 feet. If we can maintain that, great. We get down to around 30, 29, I'm going to start asking that we go to mandatory conservation for just domestic use only.
And when you sent this email... When you sent this email back in 2017, did you get, a good response from the public?
Actually, we did.
Listen?
We did. It took a couple days for us to see it, but after a couple days, we actually did see it. And I'm hoping to get that same cooperation. If we can just limit the commercial and residential watering, I think we'll be all right.
Now,
that's the biggest culprit this time of year.
There may be other communities that have started communicating. Social media, obviously, one of the quickest ways to get word out. We saw it through the city of Taneytown. Is that an expectation here, if not already today, in the next day or so, that these other 16 communities and others will be communicating to their residents, hey, we got it. I think that's what you would want, I would assume, to help.
Absolutely.
To bring this
and it looks like all of the original, I went ahead and put that whole email on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw that. You did a couple hours ago.
I like to be very transparent about things. I'm not trying to hide it or anything. I'm just, this is kind of a warning shot out. Hey, we're looking at a problem if we don't do something. So at that point, but I tagged all the utilities that we serve in that same email. So all of them have forwarded that onto their own social media pages and stuff. We're hoping it gets traction. I love talking to you about this and help get the news media to help us get the word out too. If people will just cooperate and back off on the watering some, I think we'll be fine.
And this is a short-term thing. We're hoping, if say short-term, it could still be weeks and months. Long-term, though, we talked previous. It's a good problem to have when there's neighborhoods. This area is growing. We're building. I mean, there's 3 neighborhoods being constructed within a stone's throw of my house right now. But that said, how do you manage that? Because the demand is just going to continue growing in an area that we've already said by 2050 we could be, what's the number, 1 million that's being tossed around? So
yeah, and actually we're in the process. We've actually been expanding sections of the system as a whole since 2008. One piece at a time kind of deal, because you don't want to do a whole lot at once if you don't have to, and you don't, because it all costs money and it's going to jack up rates on the wholesale rate that we charge. Right now, we charge $3.80 per 1,000 gallons that the cities use. Now, we have no control over what the rates they charge or anything else. That is dependent on their systems. But we are in the middle of a $300 million investment right now, putting in a new high service pump station, which will pump higher quantities, along with a 54-inch line that will go all the way from the plant all the way to the Decatur storage, and adding another 10 million gallons of storage at Decatur, which some of that will be online by next summer, which will give us a little bit of relief. But it's not going to fully solve the problem until we get the new line all the way to Decatur, which I would suspect right now. I hope it happens before I retire. So we're probably looking at about 2030, 2029, 2030 to get the full project done.
You worried about any, I guess, pushback, people, home builders, somebody's going to, I'll buy that house as soon as you put the lawn down. But this could have some domino effects to, lawn and garden folks, the other industries, these home builders that are trying to get across their finish line so they can get their product sold.
Absolutely. But one, the weather right now is not conducive to putting down sod or hydro seed. On our own projects, I've stopped the contractors from putting anything down right now because it's so water dependent to do. I don't want to spend the water to keep watering that stuff every day until it gets taken. And this is just a bad time of year to do it. With all the development in Northwest Arkansas, sodding and hydromulching are two big water users in all these subdivisions being built everywhere. And it's unfortunate, but what's the alternative is we put everybody on domestic use only, and then they are completely shut down. So, a little cooperation on this. A lot of people tend to overwater. They water every day. It's not necessary to do that. So, a little common sense and some cooperation will go a long ways in helping fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anything we haven't hit on, I mean, we've tried to just make it as digestible for those that watch, and we're going to continue kind of expanding on this in our evening newscast, that you're selling 21 million a day. Your max capacity is 20. So that tells you right there, you're running at 1 million gallon water of deficit daily. And you're just trying to head this off before it becomes
warning.
What, I guess before we cut you loose, what's a mandatory
what's it
issuance look like?
Yeah.
What does that look like if it ever reached that?
If it gets to that, and again, I'm relying on our systems to be able to do it, because as a regional wholesaler, I don't really have authority other than tell them, hey, this is what you got coming to you. You better do something about it, because we will end up at low levels where certain towns have problems taking water. And the others, we did this when we had that big transmission break about 6 weeks ago. And all the cities were very cooperative in having their customers just go to domestic use only. And that saved us during that period of time. We had a very good response from the public on that. People did what we asked. We got that leak fixed the same day, got everything back up and running, short of some air in the line. There were no other issues with it. But a mandatory, if we have to go to that, it is going to be domestic usage only, period. There will be no outdoor watering, no filling pools. I will ask the cities to shut down their splash pads. A lot of stuff goes with that, and we're trying to avoid that if we can get cooperation on the front end.
And domestic meaning just, inside the home, washing dishes, washing your clothes, drinking.
Necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Well, Scott Borman, that's the Benton, Washington Regional Public Works Authority. I appreciate it. I know this is a lot to get out, but just we tried to make it as simple as it's just simple math at this point.
Common sense.
They're going to keep building homes. It's going to happen, but it's going to take an effort of these 17 communities to kind of rein it back in. And hopefully this won't be too extended. We may even get the time we have left. Maybe if Dan has a minute, I don't know when we're seeing rain. And that's
ask Dan when it's going to rain everywhere.
I don't think it is anytime soon.
I missed the days of the big sweeping line of storms to come through and just kind of hang out a while. But in the moment, we, you know, in the dead of winter, we want it to be hot. And then now we get to the dead of August and here we sit wishing we had an inch of ice outside.
Mhm.
But not really, but you get my point.
I welcome cold fronts and cooler weather, believe me.
Well, sir, Scott, I appreciate it. Thanks. We're just doing our part trying to help get that word out. We hope this, all these communities see the need and it's met. And
Cooperate.
maybe we'll be updating folks here soon that this voluntary, even though we are seeing some wording like mandatory, but to be clear, it's at this point a voluntary effort, correct?
Mhm.
It is, and I'd like to keep it that way too. If everybody can cooperate, that'll work good. And I appreciate y'all helping us get the word out to everybody.
All right,
Of course.
Scott Borman, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well.